After a few weekend-long shows earlier this spring, we loaded up for a small local show over in St. Louis last weekend, and as the title of this video suggests, I came home with a little bit of something to talk about. I've been talking up smaller shows on the channel for quite a while at this point, and this pickup is just another great example of why I think you should check these events out in your area. But before I get into the big reveal, here's some walk-around footage I shot while at the show. Enjoy this walk-around footage from the most recent Spectre Club show in Shrewsbury, Missouri. What I love about these shows is that you'll never know what you'll see while you're there. From Golden Age goodness to that awesome Alien novella that I focused in on there for a second, last week's show did not disappoint. But if you were watching closely, hoping to maybe pick out what I had picked up while I was at the show, I realized that I completely missed the booth that it came from, and it was a buddy of mine's booth. So sorry, Spike, I did not get any footage of your booth, but you know, that's probably enough beating around the bush. Let me show you what I picked up. I brought home a new copy of Batman 121, the first appearance of Mr. Freeze. This guy has a cover date of February 1959. The thing I like most about this particular copy is it has the received date right here in the top corner of the cover. So while the cover date for this issue was February 1959, it actually hit the stands on December 18th, 1958. There's no store stamp to go along with the date to tell me where exactly this one was originally released at. But just before Christmas, 1 week before Christmas, I mean, this thing hit the stands. How fitting is that for the debut of Mr. Freeze? The cover art on this guy came from Curt Swan, while Sheldon Moldoff drew the interior art for the Dave Wood story. Batman always had multiple stories, but the Mr. Freeze story inside is called The Ice Crimes of Mr. Zero. And as we all know, it wasn't until his second appearance in Detective Comics 373 that came out all the way in March 1968 that the character's name was officially changed to Mr. Freeze. That makes Mr. Freeze just another in a long list of Batman bad guys that had an early appearance or maybe two early appearances, and then we didn't see anything out of him for quite a while. Full disclosure, as a kid that, yes, grew up with the Batman Adventures cartoon on Fox, I absolutely love Mr. Freeze, and I suspect that if you share that experience with me from the early 90s, you probably feel the same. If you were a Batman the Animated Series fan, or even just a Mr. Freeze fan in general, let me know down in the comments. I suspect there's a lot of us. So let's talk about the book itself. As with all the copies I've owned of this book, it's lower grade. I have a hard time finding this book, period, let alone a really nice copy. I've actually seen more copies of this available in the last year or two than I have in really most of the last 5 or 10 years. It was a book you just rarely ever saw prior to, like I said, the last year and a half, 2 years. Now it's a little more common. They're starting to come out of the woodwork a little bit, but like I said, all the ones I've had have been low grade, and in fact, this is the lowest grade copy I've owned, but it still presents pretty well for the grade. Conservatively, I've got this thing at a 1.5, and that's primarily due to a decent sized piece missing out of the last page. It's just kind of a rounded corner off the lower right of the last page. Unfortunately, that does affect the art on a couple of panels. There's a one-page non-Batman story on that last page, and it does, like I said, affect some of the art in that. So that's a bummer, but the good news is that all of the important stuff's there. No missing pieces from the cover. The Mr. Freeze story is completely unaffected, so it's 100% intact and there, ready to be enjoyed. And the page quality of the issue is actually pretty nice. Values for this book are really pretty tight in the lower grades. It seems to really have a hard bottom right in the neighborhood of $1,000, with copies ranging from 1.0 to 4.0 selling between $1,000 and $2,500 before the value really starts to climb. In fact, just earlier today, I saw a copy listed on Instagram that was missing, it looked like the entire front cover, and it was still had an asking price of $700 on it, which was pretty shocking for a book that was in that low a shape. It was, no offense to the seller, it was not a very pretty copy, but it was still what it is. It's a Batman 121. The reason I decided to pick this copy up was because I also have a CBCS 2.5, and the slightly higher price point of that slabbed 2.5 seems to be just too much for a lot of collectors in my area. That book always draws so much attention when I'm at a show and I have it on my wall, but to date, nobody has pulled the trigger on it just yet. So I thought I would pick up a more affordable copy and see if maybe I could find that balance between the area's collectors' desire for having the book, and then the cost with which it takes to get that book. I'll be bringing this one with me to Des Moines Comic-Con next weekend, which is June 3rd and 4th up in Des Moines, Iowa. So come see me at that show if you want to check this one out in person. Small local comic book and collectible shows are a great and affordable venue to find some fantastic items for your various collections. In addition to shopping, you can also meet and interact with other members of your local community, and building out those relationships is a big part of the hobby. You'll make friends and acquaintances that will help you along the way with your collection, and in many ways that may surprise you. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.